When people ask you what happened here, tell them the North remembers. Tell them winter came for House Frey. Far to the north, after losing their allies in the cave of the Three-Eyed Raven and being rescued and led away by Benjen Stark, Bran Stark has a vision of the White Walkers marching at the head of an undead army with several undead giants among them. Bran and Mira then seek passage south, revealing their identities to Dolorous Ed of the Night's Watch, convincing him to let them through. With House Bolton and their allies defeated, King Jon Snow now rules from Winterfell and calls a meeting of all the noble houses in the north to discuss their next steps as they prepare to defend against the White Walkers. First, Jon announces that the Maesters of the North must scour their records for mentions of dragon glass so they might mine whatever deposits are available and craft weapons. Second, Jon announces that all men, women, boys, and girls aged 10 to 60 must be trained to fight. Although Robert Glover is hesitant to send young women into battle, Lyanna Mormont of Bear Island, a young girl herself, defends the idea that everyone must fight, and Lord Robert concedes. Next, Jon declares that they must send the wildlings to man the wall as reinforcements for the Night's Watch, and so Tormund Giantsbane is sent to Eastwatch by the Sea, the closest fortress to Hardhome, where they last faced the White Walkers, and a candidate for one of the locations vulnerable to attack. They then move on to discuss the castles of Last Hearth and Carhold, the ancestral seats of House Umber and Karstark, the traitors who joined House Bolton against the Starks. The fate of both houses and their lands must be decided, as these will be among the first areas attacked if the White Walkers pass the wall. Sansa, who sits at Jon's side, suggests that the Umber and Karstark families should be stripped of their lands and titles, so they might be given to those allies that fought alongside the Starks. Her notion of punishment for treason and reward for loyalty rallies many of the nobles in the room who agree with her sentiments. However, Jon Snow refuses the idea, stating that the specific lords who fought against them are dead, and that he will not blame children for the mistakes of their fathers. He also states that in order to defend against the White Walkers, they will need all the living as allies, and so he proclaims that they will keep faith with the Umbers and Karstarks, who have served loyally for centuries, calling upon the new leaders of those houses, young Ned Umber and Alice Karstark, to pledge their loyalty once more for House Stark. The Northmen are swayed by Jon's decision and cheer after the young children swear their oaths. After the meeting, Sansa warns Jon that he has to be smarter than their father Ned and brother Robb, who both made mistakes that cost them their lives. They then receive a letter from King's Landing, where Queen Cersei Lannister has taken the throne, demanding that they swear loyalty or else be destroyed. Although Jon is less concerned about the Lannister army, believing that a southern army will not attack the north with winter upon them, Sansa is convinced Cersei will not rest until they are dead. Peter Baelish, called Littlefinger, watches in the background, taking every opportunity to drive a wedge between Sansa and her brother, hoping to convince her that he can provide the power and position she desires if only she will take her place by his side. After the murder of Walder Frey, Arya Stark uses her abilities to pose as Lord Frey, calling a meeting of the most powerful members of their house. She claims the meeting is to discuss their plans for winter, but instead uses the opportunity to poison their wine, killing them all in mere moments. Arya spared the servants and Walder Frey's wife, instructing her to let everyone know that winter has come for House Frey. Arya then travels south, journeying to King's Landing, where she plans on killing Queen Cersei Lannister. However, on the road, she meets a group of royal soldiers sent to the Riverlands to keep the peace. At first, Arya is unsure about their intentions, but after sitting with them for a while, learns that they are kind and generous, even sharing their food and wine. Also traveling through the Riverlands are the Brotherhood Without Banners, accompanied by Sandor Clegane. Seeking refuge from the cold, they spend the night in a seemingly abandoned home, which Sandor recognizes as a place he once robbed. Inside, they find the bodies of the father and daughter, with Beric Dondarrion concluding that the man likely killed his daughter and himself to spare them starvation. Sandor is shaken by their deaths and starts to demand answers about why the Lord of Light keeps Beric Dondarrion, of all people, alive. Thoros of Myr tells the Hound to look into the flames, which he does reluctantly, seeing a vision of the Wall, an undead army, and an attack at a castle where the Wall meets the sea, likely referring to Eastwatch. In King's Landing, Queen Cersei Lannister and her brother Jaime discuss Tyrion's new position as Hand of the Queen to Daenerys Targaryen. Jaime then explains that their fleet will likely stop at Dragonstone to prepare for their invasion of the mainland. With the loss of their allies in House Frey, the Lannisters are surrounded by enemies, with the Dragon Queen in the east, the Sand Snakes in the south, Olenna Tyrell in the Reach, and Jon and Sansa in the north. In response, Cersei invites Euron Greyjoy, King of the Iron Islands, to the capital so they might discuss their mutual enemies. Jaime is hostile to the Ironborn King, calling him illegitimate and recounting that it was Euron Greyjoy who burned the Lannister fleet at Casterly Rock so many years ago in the Greyjoy Rebellion. Euron makes no apology or excuse for his actions, instead simply pointing out how insignificant the Iron Islands are to Queen Cersei, yet how significant his naval fleet might be when fighting for her cause. And so he offers a marriage proposal to unite House Lannister and Greyjoy so that their combined forces might wipe out the Dragon Queen, the Greyjoy rebels, and the Northerners. Cersei rejects his proposal outright, claiming that he is not a trustworthy partner, but Euron is not so easily dissuaded and vows that he will leave at once, not to return until he has a gift so mighty it might win Cersei's heart. In the citadel of Old Town, Sam Tarly is subjected to the menial, repetitive, and disgusting duties of a novice training to be a maester. Aside from his displeasure at the workload, he is disappointed to learn most of the maesters he has met do not believe his stories about White Walkers, and even when he finds someone that does believe him, he is unconvinced that the threat is as dire as Sam believes. But Sam knows the Night's Watch is counting on him, and so steals the keys to gain access to a restricted area, going through their books until he finds a map of Dragonstone, then writing to Jon Snow, informing him of the large deposit of dragonglass available on the island. As Sam continues to go through his daily duties, he encounters Jorah Mormont, still sick with grayscale, who is being held for study and treatment at the Citadel. After leaving the city of Miri under the care of Daario Naharis, Daenerys Targaryen, Mother of Dragons, takes her fleet to Dragonstone, which has been abandoned since the death of Stannis Baratheon. After removing a Baratheon banner from her family's ancestral home, Daenerys and Tyrion make their way to the strategy room, where, like Aegon the Conqueror 300 years earlier, they prepare for their invasion of Westeros. A special thanks to all those who contribute to Civilization X, like Yormond Crowkiller, Jake the Red Fury, and Nesha the Flamebearer. If you'd like to help the channel with a monthly donation, click on the Patreon link, and please be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to see more.